I'm very pleased to once again invite Geeta Ramanujam ji. We all attended her excellent session yesterday. We learned about her journey, the same sense of flow, that we experienced in her session also. Today, she is going to present a paper, and a very, very important and interesting paper, Myths and Symbols from Nature, the natural connection to tales. Geetaji, I'm honored to welcome you again.
Again, thank you so much for inviting me. And it's an honor and pleasure. I think I have 15 minutes. That's wonderful. And I can see a lot of people in the participants. I would be very, very, very happy. It's a request. If you can unmute your videos and just a little bit, just about half a minute to 1 minute it's going to take. So all those who can unmute your videos, I'll be very happy. Thank you, Lavanya. Thank you, Shivkumarji. Thank you, Deepa. Wonderful. Okay. Now, all those who are listening, I just want you to also do this in your spaces. If you can all close your eyes, it would be wonderful if you can just close your eyes, every one of you. And I want you to just be with yourself. I know it's not very easy to bring your thoughts away, but just be with yourself. I want you to just think and imagine that you have become a rock. And you are the size of a football. The rock, which has very indefinite edges, because it's not curved, it has a little bit of crack on the head, and you can feel the wind get into you. You can also feel the change of season becoming a little warm and hot, and you can feel that inside of you through that crack on your head. And then you can hear some birds, whoosh, probably a river sound, a frog, and then slowly you start to get a bit cold because you can feel the shadow of the sun slowly on you. And now, as the wind is getting cold, there are drops of water, and one drop seeps through your head and gets into you. And then there's a gush, an avalanche, because there's a mountain near you, above you. You are actually on top of a mountain. And you see, as you look up, you start to shake because the wind is woo! It's howling wind, and you are a bit shaky, but you're strong. And then there is an avalanche, and there is water, and the water gushes down, and it pushes you. And you are very shaky. From being a metamorphic rock, you just start rolling down. You roll, gadaram, 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 gadaram. And as you're rolling down that mountain, you're splitting. You're becoming two halves, but you are conscious in each one of them. You are becoming to multiple rocks, multiple sand, multiple things. As you go to the bottom, past that river, and the river takes you, and it takes you almost near the bed of the ocean, and you have now become sedimentary rocks, but you pile on top of each other, and you're conscious in each one of those grains that are there. You can feel yourselves in everything. And then it's cold in the ocean bed, and on that bed, you slowly start becoming a crystalline rock. You start gaining a color, what they call as spatikam, any color, anything. And as you gain this color and this crystalline, you become hard, cold. And you are there for many, many eons. And slowly, you start going to the bottom of that earth, that ocean bed, and you reach the lithosphere and down into the earth, the mid of the earth, getting warmer and warmer and warmer and hot, 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 hot. Now you're hot. You're really hot, hot on all sides, and you have friends because there are other rocks near you, and you can feel yourselves in all these other rocks. And as you get hotter and hotter and hotter, there the rocks are pushing you up, and you go right up and whoo, fall down. And you're hot, and you are now a lava, a magma, flowing and flowing, becoming from hot to warm, and this takes place for many years. You can feel the edges. You can feel the cool breeze, and you are now still. You are now somewhere you don't know where, but there is peace in yourself. And you've gone back to what you were in the beginning. When you slowly open your eyes, you know that it was not so difficult to become that rock. Thank you so much. Yes. I would just want to ask you, just one of you, if you felt something. What did you feel? A little bit. What you felt. Anyone. Yeah. Or if you want to keep the feelings for yourself, that's fine. All right. So what did I want to convey through this? None of us said, I don't want to close my eyes. I did not become a rock. So what was the experience? Were you a rock or were you a human being? What is that state that you went through? Were you afraid to be a rock? Were you afraid to go down that mountain? Were you afraid of the ocean, the bed, and the magma? No. So I'm going back now. You know, we are part of everything. Sarvam Brahmamayam. Re re. Sarvam Brahmamayam. Kim Vachaniyam. Kim Avachaniyam. Kim Rachaniyam. Kimarachaniyam sarvam brahmamayam. So I'm going back now. Rock is matter. What you went through was an experience. So let's take the symbol of this Brahmand as a seed. This is only symbolic. The seed which contains everything. So this seed is pregnant with everything, is what we think. But before the seed, this Brahmand cannot be, because it was, it is, it will be. Nobody knows the absolute truth, which we call as Sat. So this is absolute truth. Nobody is aware of. People only started after that, because still the expanding consciousness, which is in every one of us, including the rock, including the stones, including the trees, that frog which made that sound, it is all universal. And this expanding consciousness cannot be explained, seen, touched, unchanging. So right now, we have to know what we are made up of. How did this evolution begin? So here, from this Brahmand, the seers. Now, who are the seers? The rishis, the old saints. They perceived. Now, there is no word in English, because the nearest we come to is listening. But listening came much later. So what we call as vyuham, or from the heart feelings, or the feel and the experience. So they made that into Shiva. So there we have what we call as the reflected consciousness, which is called Shiva. Let's call it Shiva. But he's nothing and he is everything. That's where the Westerners begin with, not really. In fact, they don't even begin there. But in the Oriental cultures, they say there was Maya or Shakti. And Shakti borrows this reflected consciousness, merges with Shiva, and starts doing, which is called movement. Now, when this movement happens, there is evolution, there is movement, there is dynamism, and that is why it's called Shakti, and we have what is called as matter. And in the Western culture, it is this matter that comes together and the Big Bang happens. But we are much before that, because there were seers, and these seers could experience, could feel. Then came first the Shravanam, and then came what we call as Shabdam, which is the word. So in the Western culture, they start with, that is the word. God said, let there be light, and it was the word. So you see, we have been much before this, and very ancient civilization to be able to see this. And then we come to the Shravanam, which we call listening. Again, today from listening, we're only hearing, because nothing is happening. Listening is with all our senses. So here, the matter, and it multiplied, and evolution. And the evolutionary theory was that everything had myths and symbols. And so there is a little story where Narada is in Vaikuntha. Now, these are all symbols again. So he's in Vaikuntha and he has to visit the earth. And so Narayana says, okay, go to the earth. And Narada says, I need a Shabdam. I need something, the word. What will I tell when I see people? He says, oh, Narayana, Narayana. Ah, yes, Narayan, Narayan. So there he comes to the earth. And first he sees this little insect, the puru that they see. And Narada goes near that puru or that worm and says, Narayan, Narayan. Very happy because he's found the word. But that insect dies. He says, what is it? Did I not utter it properly? And then he goes and he's a little worried and he goes to the next person, which is the frog. So he goes near the frog and he says, Narayan, Narayan. Literally croaks. Oh, what is this? And he says, I think I'm not Ucharipu, pronunciation not correct. Narayan, Narayan. Okay. So he goes, Bell. There's a cow. So he goes near the cow and says, Narayan, Narayan. Bell. Tongue out, cow dies. First word from Vaikuntha. Everyone is dying. I'm running back to Vaikuntha. This Narayan has cheated me. He's running back towards Vaikuntha, and it's at that time the human evolution has already happened. And there is this Raja who comes running and he looks at Narada. Ah, they said that you're carrying this word from heaven. Falls at Narada's feet and says, you must come and bless my daughter with that word that you're carrying from Vaikuntha. No, she's not getting married without your blessing. So he literally carries Narada, and the bride and the groom fall at Narada's feet. Narayan, Narayan. And he closes his eyes, and he sees both of them get up. And then she looks at Narada and she asks, do you remember me? And Narada says, no. She says, you know, when I was the worm, you gave me my next birth because you told me that beautiful shabd called Narayan, Narayan. I got the next birth. And then from the frog, I got the next birth. And down, I'm a human being, the last of the evolutionary cycle. And here I am. So bless me. So you see, though we are part of that last chain, the experiences, they say that we see at least 84 lakh yonis before we come to the evolutionary world. So all that came, it's a big matter. It's not very easy to say it in 15 minutes, but I want to end with this, that Krishna, who also represents consciousness, he went through everything in life, and this last journey, he can perceive that his avatar is getting over. Though he had all these women, he finally hugs Uddhava and he says, Uddhava, go to Banaras. And you will represent me, not Banaras, sorry, Badrinath. And then he walks into this forest alone. But remember, his heart is filled with the cows, with the cattle, with the gopis, with his women, with all his life. He's recalling it as he goes and sits under this beautiful tree. And as he sits under the tree, he thinks. He goes to his life, he's alone. And of course, there is that arrow which comes and pierces him. And he feels that pain because he wants to feel. It's in the last journey of ours that everything comes back to us. And his whole life flashes. And he knows his women have always been more strategic than he has been. And so he's looking at Kunti and Draupadi and Satyabhama and everyone, and he watches the full moon, and it's almost full in the sky. You can hear the rivers, and he's closing his eyes. He's thinking about everything. There's so much love in his heart. There's love. There's Lord. He's filled with love. And that's what our consciousness gets pregnant in the last stage of our life. And he holds it. That's why he's dark in color. So he's fully pregnant with all that love. He's full of it. And he hears dung, 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 the temple bells. Om Jai Jagdish Hare. And there is the song. And as he's listening to all this, all the animals, all the birds in the sky, they stop. The wind ceases. The little leaf on that tree, one leaf moves, which is his heart, his soul, and he's ready to leave this earth. And as he leaves his body, he leaves all that love he releases into that stone, into the trees, into the leaves, into the cattle, into all those animals and birds and everything. And they all take it in and they all say, Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna means consciousness. So he leaves this expanding consciousness. He merges into the Brahman, leaving behind this love, which has been for eons, eons, and eons, this love that we all today worship him. And this is not worshipping Krishna, but worshipping the consciousness, which has absolutely been there for us. Thank you so much. It is quite a complex matter, but I wanted to say that it is possible for us to feel and to be with every part of the universe today. And whatever man feared, he made it into gods. I don't want you to make COVID into a god, because I don't think that's worth it. We will try and evade it, because if we fill ourselves with love, a lot of love, we can merge and liberate into this consciousness, which is called Brahman. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Thank you so much, Geeta ji. What is there to explain, paraphrase, in such an experience? It just floats through our mind and the spine. Thank you so much for this. Audience, any thoughts, anything that you would want to ask Geeta ji? Thank you so much, Geeta ji.
Yeah, yes.
And Shweta ji has a question.
So I have had the good fortune of attending Geeta's course in Catalia, and during the mountain and bird story, the end of the story, the mountain initially is lonely and the bird is the only friend, and then the whole ecology is created. Similarly, I know that you've created a whole ecology in storytelling. So could you talk about that, of an ecology of storytellers in India?
In India? Yeah,
Yes.
I think I
Or
spoke
maybe not a whole world.
I think I spoke about it a bit yesterday, because I thought that I set the trend for storytelling in India. I wouldn't say I set the trend at all. There is nothing to invent. I rediscovered, because people have already been telling stories. There are innumerable storytellers in the past. What I did do is, because of the movement and nuclear families and everything, developing country, I think for a period, people had stopped telling stories. And I had the good fortune to be able to remove that stick from that lame leg and ask that storyteller to walk and say, now you can begin to walk. And after a while, you can run. But don't become like the corporate life. Don't become a substandard one. Feeling stories is still very important. The sparsham, the akarshanam. If you don't feel that story, it's not going to make any sense. It will become a text with no sense. And I'm afraid of that, but everything has to go through a cycle. It will go, but what will last is what was, what is, what will be. Stories will be there. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Shweta. Thanks, Madhavi.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Geeta ji.
Yes.
I actually, for a while, forgot that this was a storytelling.
Webinar, no?
It took a while for me to come back.
Because I think oral tradition is something that I also wanted to touch a bit, because that is storytelling.
True.
Storytelling is oral tradition.
Very true. I think from time to timeless,
Yes.
that is a journey.
Right.
Thank you so much.